Hello and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast in association with eBay Motors Group. It is Saturday the 9th of January 2021 and you're joined by myself, Philip Nothard.
And me, Curtis Hutchinson. This is episode 395 of Motor Trade Radio, bringing you all the chatter that matters. And we'll be trawling through some of the industry stories that caught our attention this week. But first of all, though, welcome back to the podcast. We hope everyone's managed to enjoy some R&R over what was a very strange Christmas and New Year break. What about yourself, Phil?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean, it's. We obviously, as we mentioned in the run up to Christmas, the year certainly didn't slow down. It didn't slow down right up to the last minute before Christmas Day, and then with the Brexit deal and everything else coming through very quickly between the Christmas and the New Year, it certainly didn't slow down at all, did it? And we walked back into
it didn't. No, we could have actually squeezed in another couple of podcasts the way it turned out.
We could. It was certainly active, and it's if you manage to keep away from emails and social media and the news, then well done. You did a great job. I do struggle with that kind of thing, but there was, as I say, the EU exit deal came out, didn't it? And that created a lot of questions, a lot of conversation, a lot of debate, and that's continuing now with what the long, short impact will be on the sector.
Yeah,
but still a lot to come from that.
It's only just begun.
It has, unfortunately, isn't it? And everyone keeps talking about the devil's in the detail. But I think for the minute, for the dealers particularly, the fact that we haven't got tariffs is a positive, and the fact that there is a deal of some sort removes part of that uncertainty that was in place. So I think there is a lot to come, a lot of conversation still taking place, particularly things around import-export, rules of origin and things like this. But for the minute, at least there is a deal there, and things can start to move forward. And I think with the lockdown 3, there's other things to focus on currently, isn't there, Curtis?
There is indeed, yes. And I'd just like to say, anyone who has opted to have a dry January, I wish them continued luck. Yeah. We're only a week in, and that must be one hell of a challenge.
And what a week it's been so far, as you say. It's, I think everyone I've been speaking to has been saying, is this really just the first week of January straight back after Christmas? It certainly doesn't feel that way. But yeah, as you say, lots going on at the minute.
Yeah, so we've got plenty of headlines this morning, and we've also got an exclusive from our sponsor eBay Motors Group on how the used car market performed in December. So do stay tuned for that. But we'll start with a shout out, shall we?
We will, yeah. I mean, there's an award at the minute, and it is being coordinated by Cox Automotive, but it is for the entire automotive sector, and this is the third year of the Barbara Cox Women of the Year award for 2021. And you may know that Alison Jones, the group managing director for the UK and senior vice president for PSA, and recently appointed to the SMMT, Alison Jones, and the year before that was Beryl Carney from JCT 600. So it's a prestigious award for recognising women in the industry, and it's looking at anybody that wants to nominate. I think the nominations are open until the 22nd of January, so only a short window left now on this. And we're just a shout out for anybody that's in the sector, either working with you or somebody that you know within the industry that you want to nominate. Just check me out on social media. The links are there. And it's about embracing innovation and advances in the industry. It inspires others through a commitment to great leadership and gives back to her community. So it's really recognising the work that they're doing. But it's great there. It's a brilliant recognition for anybody that wins this over the years. Plus, it is supported by a £5,000 award. to spend on their own development as well as recognition for the winner of it. So please do get nominated and get anybody that you know that you feel that should be recognised for this achievement, put their names forward.
Yeah, and we'll post the link for that on our Twitter feed. So do head over there and to take it from there. So headlines this week: the SMMT reports new car registrations in 2020 dropped nearly 30% to a 30-year low. Van registrations were also down by 20%. Dealers end 2020 with stronger new car demand. Dealers turn to online sales to offset lockdown restrictions. That particular story takes a look at Germany and UK, so some interesting trends developing there. Peter Vardy Group is exiting the Vauxhall franchise and aims to double its used car sales. Cambria's used sales dropped by over a quarter as a result of COVID closures. And finally, your chance to buy one of TV's most famous cars and have it delivered by its celebrity owner. Who is it? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out.
So, I mean, again, the big story of the week, other than lockdown 3 and EU exit, what was the results for 2020 in terms of new car registrations? And as you said, Curtis, the headlines on BBC News this week was that UK new car registrations in 2020 sink to a 30-year low. And I mean, there wasn't, I think all the forecasts, including our own and the SMMT, were forecasting around this 30%. The actual result was down 29.4%, down to 1.63 million new car registrations compared to a result last year of 2.3 in 2019. But I don't think it came as a big surprise to many, did it really? I think the November and December results were actually reasonably positive, all things considered. But obviously we lost a lot in the March and the September due to the pandemic.
Yeah, no big surprise. We obviously were closely tracking and monitoring the market over the course of the closing months of the year. So 30%, it isn't a surprise. And there's no sugarcoating the fact that, that is a significant drop. The December market was down 11%, but there were some notable year-on-year gains. I'd be interested to see if you've got a view on this, Phil, but there were gains by the likes of Alfa. They're up 41%, Jaguar up 82%, Maserati up 13%, Nissan up 34%. But this is against the backdrop of the majority of brands being down.
And when you look at the full year, and we were talking before the show, there was only a couple of winners, weren't there, for the year in terms of positives for the full year, and that was one of them MG, and we've talked about MG throughout 2020, haven't we, in terms of what they're doing in the sector, the growth in the market, and with the new EV that they've got, etc. They are growing, and obviously there's quite a few operations now that have switched from Mitsubishi into MG as well as a consequence of the Mitsubishi departure. So they're probably one of the winners. But I think you were talking about Tesla, weren't you, as well, being one of the winners for the year?
Yes. Now, Tesla's an interesting one because they're not part of the SMMT figures. So if you look at the figures published by the SMMT, go right to the bottom of the table, there's a section for other imports. Now, other imports at the moment is pretty much predominantly Tesla. And we know this because Tesla had the top-selling car in December with the Model 3, which sold just shy of 6,000 units, which is quite extraordinary, really. And that's probably the first time we've had an EV, a total EV, leading the car sales figures. So by extrapolating some of the figures here, I reckon, and this is sort of back of a fag packet calculations here, so apologies for that, but I reckon Tesla actually sold around 25,000 units in 2020 and had a market share of around 1.5%. And to put that into context, it means that Tesla is now outselling the likes of Lexus, Mazda, Porsche, and Suzuki. And let's not forget that it has a network now of 25 sites in the UK, having originally said that it wouldn't pursue a network, it would go direct, but it's opening a further site in Glasgow soon, and that's starting to look like a traditional retail model now.
It is, and very positive. And it's not just in the UK either. I mean, a lot of the reports coming out from the European market of the 2020 new car performance. Tesla is noted in a couple of those as well in terms of their performance in places like Germany and other countries. So again, making an impact and starting to get some volume in the sector, particularly on the growth of that EV into the domination of EV and what's happening with that. So great news, and I say a little bit of analysis there from Curtis. So yeah, it's but there was many. I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, your losses in terms of year on year range from -6% year on year by Porsche, down to Subaru that was down 68.27% year on year in terms of percentage of movement. Not masses of volumes there for Subaru, but a significant shift in performance there, with Citroen at 44%, DS 44%, Suzuki struggling there at 43% year on year performance. So again, really hit majority, if not all, the manufacturers apart from a couple with the year on year performance.
Yeah, and looking at the year as a whole, retail was down 27%, fleet was down 31%, and business sales to sub-25 fleets was down 43%. So if you're looking for winners, it was a bumpy year for EVs and plug-in hybrid electrics, which together, according to the SMMT, accounted for over 1 in 10 new car registrations. And that's actually up from 1 in 30 in 2019. And another stat that caught my eye from the SMMT was that 68% of these sales were in fleet. So it does show the potential for incremental growth in retail. Obviously, once stronger incentives are introduced and we have a better infrastructure in place. So that is where the growth is going to come from now.
And to put this in a little bit of context around some of the European markets, we weren't the worst in terms of year-on-year performance. As you said there, Curtis, so we're down down to 1.6 million, down by 29.4%. Germany finished at just over 2.9 million, down 19.1%. Italy, 1.4 million, at 27.9% down, and Spain down to less than a million at 851,000, as a drop of 32.2% there in Spain. So Spain have been hit pretty hard in terms of COVID impact on those guys. So and we shouldn't really feel sorry for China, really. They still finished on just over 25 million, down 1.9%. Year on year for the year 2020, so significant volume still coming out of China there, with a small decline of 1.9%. But they've had a roller coaster of the year over there in China, haven't they, with recovery and then drop off again. So
because the Chinese market was hit before anyone else. I mean, before the pandemic. So strong. Certainly signals there of recovery.
And obviously vans, and we're going over to Motoring Research. The guys over at Motoring Research have done some work on the LCV market there with our friend Richard Alcock. So 2020 van sales dropped by a fifth, but a Ford van beats the VW Golf. And you found this story quite interesting, really, because they do, as you like it, they did a top 10 for the 2020 best-selling vans, and the Ford Transit did outperform the VW this time.
Yeah, this is interesting, and well done to Motoring Research for pointing this out, because the Ford Transit ended up being the third best-selling vehicle in the UK last year, because it sold 43,500 units against the VW Golf, which was 43,109, so putting it in third place, which is quite extraordinary, really. I mean, I don't remember that happening before, but looking at the figures, new van registrations fell 20% over the course of the year, resulting in 73,000 fewer vans taking to UK roads. And again, adding a bit of context to this, because we have been tracking the van market closely, and for 3 consecutive months towards the end of last year, we were starting to see some growth, but the market did drop 1% in December, and as I say, it closed the year 20% down.
Yeah, and it's a shame really, because the van market, as many people will report, is very, very strong at the minute. For obvious reasons with home deliveries and other reasons. But doesn't matter whether it's a used Euro 5, Euro 6 model, the demand is maintained, whereas the cars have sort of altered a little bit over the sort of the last half of the year. But again, a lot of the van market has been defined by supply. Unfortunately, I mean, the demand for new LCV product into the rental leasing sector has been strong, but they've just not managed to be able to get the vans because of production constraints at the factories earlier on in the year. So it's not necessarily demand that's driving the drop in the van market. It has majority been around supply, unfortunately. But again, Custom leads at first position there, followed by the Sprinter and followed by the Ford Transit in third place. And I think, is it the Ford Custom still did 20,000 margin over its second place Sprinter, so way out in the lead there for the Ford Custom ahead of the Mercedes Sprinter.
Yeah, and heading over to Motor Trade News, the headline there is Dealers End 2020 with Stronger New Car Demand. So this is some research done by DealerWeb, which suggests that orders for new vehicles actually increased by 9.5% year on year in December. So these are orders going through dealer systems, which is obviously encouraging news, in the closing month of the year, and hopefully we'll start to see some of those sales coming through over the course of this month, February, and maybe into March as well.
Yeah, and orders for used vehicles fell by 10%, whilst the average sale price increased from 18,600 to 20,900. And interestingly, and we'll probably get some stats out at some point in the future, but trying to think around the inquiry levels from a lockdown perspective as we'll move forward there. But again, positive news that there is activity out there for the new car market, which I think was it 11%? I think we mentioned earlier, drop in December for new car registrations.
Yes.
You'd take that all day long, wouldn't you? Bearing in mind the tier structures that were in place, I think it was a fairly strong market for November and December, all things considered. So there is still demand there, there is still activity there. It's all now down to getting the supply out to the customers. So we'll see how Q1 finishes off.
So you're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on the Motor Trade Radio podcast, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. We are the longest running weekly podcast serving the car retailing sector, and available by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favourite podcasts.
So we have got the exclusive, which is the data here from our sponsor eBay Motors Group on the market view that they do publish, and we've managed to get it ahead of any external publication here. So some interesting results in the December figures here from Motors, isn't there? From eBay
there
Motors,
are,
sorry.
Yes, yeah. Well, in fact, there's a couple of things that really caught my attention. List prices, if we look at the list prices of the top 50 makes and models, actually on the motors.co.uk websites over the course of December, the average prices actually fell 0.9% to £12,342. But you start breaking down those figures, and prices at car supermarkets were actually up 3.2%. Franchise dealers were down marginally by 0.3%. But if you look at independents, they actually dropped 9.5% down to £9,253. So suggesting a fair bit of activity there in the independent market. And I mean, I would suggest that's dealers looking at just clearing stock from the forecourt and trying to have a clean slate in January.
Yeah, there will be an element of that, and there'll be an element of diversifying and being able to maximise anything. At the end of the day, if I think any retailer, be it independent or franchise, a little bit more flexibility for independent because they're not governed by some of the used vehicle approved schemes that they have partnerships with their brand partners, but they might be looking at a car that would normally come in and go into the wholesale market and think, do you know what, there is a margin opportunity here and retail it, and that may have diversified their stock profile a little bit in December as to maximise opportunities and sales, and as you say, Curtis, to move stock because get that cash in at the times of the year that we need it. But some great insight there again from like you say with motors there. There's stats there looking at the stock volume per dealership at 53.2 compared to November 2020 at 50.3 and December the previous year, interestingly, at 61.3 as the average volume of stock, and the average days to sell at 42.2 days compared to November at 36.3, but down compared to December last year, which is interestingly that December last year was 43.9 average days to sell.
Yeah, which is last year, which you wouldn't expect with all the headwinds that dealers were facing in December with lockdown. So that's not bad at all.
No, not at all. So I think for anybody listening this morning, then please head over, have a look at the report there from eBay Motors. Some very interesting stats and performance figures there. We won't go through them all now. You can head over to the website and read those, and I'm sure, Curtis, you can share the link as well with the listeners once it's published as well, for them head over and look at some of the stats there. We head over to Automotive News Europe now, and this is interesting, because this is a story looking at the German and UK dealer market, and the header is that German stroke UK dealers turn to online sales to offset COVID-19 lockdowns, and this is looking at some input and commentary from both the NFDA over in the UK and their partner association, or equivalent association should I say, over in Germany, which is ZDK association over there in Germany.
Yeah, so ZDK, they're actually warning of bankruptcies in Germany amongst their members. As you say, they're the equivalent of the NFDA over in Germany, and they are warning of bankruptcies if showrooms are not allowed to reopen by the spring. So whilst they point to dealers have switched to online channels, the implication is that it's not enough, and especially as we start to head towards traditionally a busy time of the year. And this has ramifications for the UK, of course, because we know that lockdown 3 will last until, well, at the moment we think it will last until mid-February, but that coincides with the build-up towards March, which is the biggest market of the year. So there is a growing concern amongst the dealer community.
There is, yeah, and we mentioned it on the earlier story, didn't we, with the impact of 2020, with it hitting both March, at the back end of March, and September in last year. But as you say, as we approach the end of this first quarter, and if lockdown does get extended, or even just the impact of the current lockdown causing a drop in order takes and activity for the franchise dealers, it's a significant biggest month of the year that has a severe impact, and coinciding with that, and not a story that we've got for today, but there is sort of indications now starting to creep out around the supply chain for the new car market, as Honda reported an issue with their productivity due to a microchip that they can't get for some of their products. So again, the franchise dealers are heading into a big quarter, a big month for the year to kick it off, and they've got some challenges facing them, unfortunately. So it's crucial at the minute that we get through this lockdown 3 and get the dealers back open again and getting them fully operational, because I think that it is a key time of the year for these dealers now after a tough 2020.
So next headline is from AM Online, and it's Peter Vardy to exit Vauxhall franchise and double used car sales. So this is a really fascinating strategic move from the Peter Vardy group, which will potentially see it go to head with the likes of Kazoo, Karzam and Cinch, because what it's doing is it's exiting the Vauxhall franchise. So it's got 6 Vauxhall sites, which it'll rebrand as Peter Vardy Cars, and that's cars with a Z. So it'll rebrand under that banner and act as used car multi-mark supermarkets, and also it'll be it'll be very closely associated with the group's Silver Bullet online sales operation, which we've covered before on the podcast. So it gives a logical base there. So an interesting move here from a franchise group, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you could see it coming, as you say. Exiting that Vauxhall franchise, which predominantly, the Peter Vardy, in history has been that Vauxhall brand, hasn't it? We know that for many years with Sir Vardy himself initially, and obviously with Peter following on in his shoes there. So again, you can see what's happening there with the group. Makes logical sense. I mean, we've seen what happened with Kazoo and Imperial. With the Imperial sites, and as you say there, Curtis, using that car store locations for the supporting the cars with a Z Peter Vardy brand makes logical sense, and he has got some plans for a significant growth in volume as a consequence of this, and really focusing on that used car market for their 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering that the group actually launched as a Solus Vauxhall site in Perth, and that was back in 2006. I remember reporting on that when they first came to market. So they had grown a good Vauxhall business before diversing into BMW Mini and other brands. So it must have been a big decision for them to make because of that heritage. But as we've seen, Vauxhall are reducing their network, and they've run the rule over this, and I think this is a particularly good move. This is very shrewd.
It will, yeah, and it's a bit more challenge in the market isn't a bad thing. A bit more competition there. So, the Vardy family have certainly got the heritage to do that, haven't they, as well? We know those guys from the past. So, we'll head over to Motor Trader now, and these are the 3-month trading results from Cambria and our good old friend Mr. Lavery there. So, Cambria used car sales down 26% in 3 months to November. So as I say, this is the trading period up until November for the 3 months there from Cambria Group. But not great reading, but again, similar to everything else, not unexpected.
Yeah, so new car sales in that period were down 13% against a market that was down 9.4%. It said in the statements that adjusting for lockdown, trading was ahead of last time, and it also welcomed the Brexit deal, but said the uncertainty created by COVID remained a major concern as the spread of the virus accelerated. So, they are watching and waiting there.
Yeah, and the statement there is that the result of the various lockdown and tiering strategies being enforced will have a material impact on the group's financial performance in the financial year ending 31st of August 2021, and as a result the board deems it prudent to continue to the continue the suspension of financial guidance to the market. So again, a little bit of caution there from Mark Lavery and the board of Cambria. And finally, we've
got a treat.
We have, and I was quite surprised at you on this one, Curtis, that that this wasn't on your radar as a child of youth, but it certainly was on mine. And you found this story in This Is Money. And,
yes.
Yeah.
So the headline is David Hasselhoff puts his own fully functional Knight Rider kit car up for auction and even offers to deliver it to the buyer himself. So, this is the Knight Rider kit car, which I sound very authoritative about, but as I admitted to you before the show, I've never actually seen Knight Rider. So, some people they've never seen Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, but I've never seen Knight Rider. But I'm aware of it. So, this is the custom-built 1982 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and even though I've never seen the show, it is one of the most iconic cars in TV screen history, I guess. And
definitely so.
Yeah, and it's going under the hammer with 150 items from David Hasselhoff at it's a live auctioneers at Calabasas in California. So get your bids in, but it looks so it's going to go for over $375,000.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I suppose I grew up with this, so I do. I know all about the Knight Rider and Mr. Hasselhoff, and I mean, I admitted to you before the show. I mean, I'm a fan of Fast and Loud, which is the Gas Monkey garage, and there'll be people listening to this saying, "What the hell is Phil talking about?" Which is a US show on TV, and that's by Richard Rawlins. And I started to look at this story and wondered if it was the same car, because there was a one on the Gas Monkey Fast and Loud show where they found this car, found an 82 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and brought it back to the original kit car with all the touch controls and the whole lot. And I think David Hasselhoff was actually on the show of that one. So I'm wondering whether it is that same car that they did up for him. I'm not quite sure. I'll do some more investigation into it. But and anybody that's gone.
I can see how you spent your downtime over Christmas, Phil.
Oh no, it's a Sunday, it's a weekend watch, that one. But and this week, if anybody wants to check out something that is truly phenomenal, if they are interested in cars to the US world and auctions, I shared a live auction that was actually in progress, which was a collector's car auction over in the US there. And if you've never seen a US auction in action, it is something to be admired. You've got to watch it. You will need subtitles at the speed in which these guys go at, but they are phenomenal. It's definitely worth a watch, and I've shared that on my Facebook.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier that you can actually see people in auction halls, which it's quite a rarity at the moment.
Yeah, it was live, and they are big. I think the Mannheim auction over in Transylvania, I think is it 33 lanes? I think from memory. The US auction world is something it's phenomenal, the way they do things over there. But yeah, I've shared it this week. I shared it, I think, Thursday evening on my the Facebook. So if you're interested, have a look at that. And there was some fantastic cars went through, because it was a classic car auction as well, which makes it even more interesting. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this kit car going through the auction there, and we'll see what that does actually does make, because they are talking, like you say, that the bids have already soared to an eye-watering $375,000, and there's still 18 days left. So it could make some serious money, this thing, by the time it's finished.
Yeah, and also up for grabs is lunch with the Hoff. This is your opportunity to have a meal,
Yeah.
or your opportunity to scoff with the Hoff. How's that?
There is that one, yeah, we'll leave it.
It's going to cost you $20,000 though.
Yeah. And on that note, is he living in the UK now or something? I'm not quite sure. He's UK, isn't he? He's lived in the UK.
For some reason, better known to him, he's given up California for the UK. So, maybe he's tuning in. Who knows?
Yeah. I can't remember what advert he's on the TV for some food advert as well, isn't he? I think I'm not sure what he advertises these days, but yeah, he's definitely been around as Mr. Hasselhoff. But fantastic. So that, I mean, we'll end on that note. Thanks again for listening. Plenty of headlines, and as we said right at the start of the show here, there was so many headlines as always to go at. The sector has certainly not slowed down all the way through to Christmas, all the way into the new year, and the first week of the new year. It's full speed ahead as we expected, and hopefully we'll have a lot more headlines next week as well. But we'll do our best to tease out the best ones for you as usual.
Yeah, so that's all for this week's show. Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. Do join Philip and I again next weekend for all the chatter that matters. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.